Of years ago, Barbara and I were pastoring a church in a community about the size of Danville, and a young college student came in with some other college students that were. I'm not sure any of them were really convinced that the Bible was real or that God even existed, but since that time, one of those students not only came into a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, but she determined that she would go wherever God would send her. And so she has become a missionary and a translator for Wycliffe Bible Translators, either one. She'll sort it out for you. But it falls to me to be able to introduce this young lady to you, and I would like Sandy to come and tell you about her ministry.
Thanks, Paul. It has been a pleasure to be with you guys this morning. I love worshiping the Lord with his family, so thank you. I want to share a little bit about my story as well as my ministry with you. As it's hard for me not to say Pastor Paul. As Paul said, I showed up at his church, and people just kind of assumed that I was a believer because I was a good person, but I knew that I wasn't. And so at his church, I picked up one of those little read through the Bible in a year plans. And I said, I'm going to prove that this book has a whole bunch of errors in it, and then I can intellectually tell people why I'm not a Christian. So I started about reading it, and about 2 weeks into my study, a girl knocked on my dorm room door and invited me to a Bible study. And I had the inability to say no at the time, and so I went. And it became an apologetics with Sandy study as they patiently answered my questions and directed me to different resources to try to understand what Christians believed and just another way to look at the world. Well, a few weeks after that, the same girl said, hey, we're going on a trip to Florida, so Michigan to Florida, and we're going to work with Habitat for Humanity. And I'm like, oh, well, I like serving people. That sounds fun. And so I got into a 14-seater van with 10 other people and all of our luggage for a week for spring break. And I was amazed at how kind these people were to each other. I was afraid to open my mouth. I think it was about 3 hours into the trip before I said a word. And it just really struck me. And I learned while I was down there that I had been spending my time trying to judge God and who he was, rather than realizing that he was my judge. And so while I was there, I accepted the God of the Bible as the Lord of my life and just completely gave my life over to him for whatever he wanted. And I kept reading. And about 6 months after that, there was a group of people that came to the campus ministry I was a part of, and they shared with us how every single book, the 66 books that make up this Bible, every single book talks about God's heart for the nations. And I'd been reading this for about 8 or 9 months at this point, and I missed it. I totally missed it. And so I was like, okay, Lord, if this is what your heart is for, I want my heart to be for that. And I spent 2 weeks praying and asking the Lord, what do you want me to do with this? It eventually led me to working with Wycliffe Bible Translators, or Wycliffe Bible Translators. It really doesn't matter. But I want to share with you just a little bit about the big master story and master plan that God has for us. It starts in Genesis, as we all know. And after God creates Adam and Eve, he puts them in the garden and he gives them a command. And he says, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. And at this time, they hadn't fallen yet. They had a relationship with God. And so I just imagine that the Lord was just wanting everybody in the world to walk with him and to know him and just the world to be covered with people who knew him. And that's just an amazing thought to me. But he didn't get that. We know that from today, he didn't get that. Like, we covered the world, but, that's about all we did. Later on in Genesis 11, you learn of the Tower of Babel. And in the Tower of Babel, why did they build the tower? for two reasons. They didn't want to be scattered, and they wanted to make a name for God? No. They wanted to make a name for themselves. And so they built this tower into the heavens, and God sees it, and they were just in direct disobedience. And he said, okay, if they keep doing this, then we're going to have a really big problem. And so he scatters them, and he gives them a whole bunch of different languages so they can't talk to each other. About 70 at the time. In today's world, we've got over 7,000 languages, so a little bit more work, lots of work for us, to try to get that going and get everybody the word. Well, God doesn't give up on his plan. He still has the same plan throughout. And he picks Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to build a nation from, of people that follow him. And as the Israelites are leaving Egypt, he comes back to them and he gives them that purpose yet again, just before he gives them the 10 Commandments. So in Exodus 19, he tells Moses that he wants them to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Well, a priest is somebody who stands in the gap between God and people. And if the entire nation of Israel is supposed to be a priest, they're not really being priests to each other. They're being priests to other nations. So that was the goal that they had. And the rest of the Old Testament tells you how well they did or didn't do with that task. There's some good things and some, well, not so much. But you get to the New Testament with Jesus, and he's still thinking about the nations. And it's not just the Great Commandment. So he starts talking about the end times in Matthew 24. And one of my favorite verses is Matthew 24:14. And it says, and this gospel of the kingdom will be preached to the whole world as a testimony to all nations, not just America, as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. And so as we pray for Jesus to come back and his kingdom to reign here fully on earth, that's what he's looking for. He wants all the nations to know who he is and to have that witness. It's pretty incredible. So reading about that and praying about that, and I ended up joining Wycliffe Bible Translators, and I've had the privilege to serve in 2 different countries, so one in North Africa and one in Central Asia, both in difficult circumstances. I wouldn't call either of them easy, but I've enjoyed both places. And with my last term of service in a very difficult location, I looked around, and I was in the capital city of about 6 million people. And there was just a handful of us that were believers that were trying to reach out to the 6 million people. And I said, Lord, with what you've given me, I can, with your grace, reach this one people group over here. Or I can be involved in training up other workers and sending out more workers, and you can then touch these people and these people and these people and these people and do so much more. And so I will stay in the U.S. and work at a university called Dallas International University, which their sole goal is basically to train up and send out workers overseas. That's their goal. And I have a short video that I want to share with you guys.
We've been married for a couple years, and we've never been overseas. We really had no idea how to live cross-culturally.
Everything that we do is cross-cultural. The people who don't have the ability to read and they don't really understand that, then there's a really big disconnect there.
The people that we work with, none of them know how to read or write their own language, and I was floored. I had no way of anticipating what I would face.
I would be totally in the dark if I was to just go without this preparation. The professors really care about you.
I love the professors here. Every one of them has been overseas. They've all encountered the things that they're teaching.
The training that I had was from people who looked at me as a future colleague and not just someone passing through.
My professors are also my friends. They guide me in my spiritual journey and in my academics.
They prepare you spiritually, first and foremost, and mentally in linguistics, anthropology.
What makes it all worth it is the moment when it clicks and you see something and realize, wow, I can actually use this.
One of the things I've been doing the past few years is training up translators. Whatever country you've worked with, you can always find other people who've been there, and you have that camaraderie to be able to share.
There's a give and take, and we all grow together, and we're all made stronger for it.
We're really passionate about not just importing our own type of Western arts and music, but encouraging people.
The foundation is going to propel us to pour out and to give and to use the arts.
You need to get training. You can't just show up overseas somewhere hoping to accomplish something important. You need to understand the basics, and they teach you the basics and much more. We're all doing this all over the world together. That's awesome.
So there's two things about this school that I really enjoy. One is that, well, not only that they send out workers, but one is that while they were set up mainly by Wycliffe people, they train up people from all different types of mission organizations, and even people that are trying to figure out what organization they want to go with. So you've got people from Frontiers, Pioneer Bible Translators. Some of you may have heard of them. Just everybody just comes there to look for training. It's amazing in that sense. The other value that I really appreciate that they have is they try to keep their tuition low. Many of you probably know that if you go to college or graduate school, you end up with a lot of student debt. And they really know that stops a lot of people from going overseas. So they try to keep their tuition low. And one of the ways that they do that is by not paying their professors. So professors go there as their Wycliffe ministry, or, well, most of them are Wycliffe, to serve and to train up more people to go out. And I'm privileged to be one of those people that through different partners and churches that come alongside me, we can send out more people. And that's really the goal, is to send out workers. If you're interested in learning more about my ministry and staying in touch, I've got a couple ways that you can do that. So I'm just going to put a little plug there. There's these cards on a little coffee table, one of those coffee stands outside. You can fill it out and hand it to me. If you just take it, I won't get your information. But you can use the QR code on the back if you're one of those tech people, and you can sign up to receive my updates that way. Another thing I would like everybody to do is just grab a card that has my face on it. I kind of joke, but I'm half serious. If you want to stick it to your refrigerator, and then before you open your refrigerator to get a snack or whatever, you pray for me. Maybe it'll encourage you to reflect on the snack as well. And it works as a diet plan. It hasn't worked for me yet, as I pray for other missionary friends, but maybe it'll work for you, and then you can let me know. I'd love to hear a success story from that. I want to leave you with a verse. It's from Matthew 9, and it starts in 35. And Jesus went throughout all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom and healing every disease and every affliction. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us today. Please let us know how this message impacted you by filling out a Connect card on our website or app. Consider supporting this ministry by giving online.